morning, dear students. Today we are going to discuss about internal jugular vein. Internal jugular vein is very important from examination point of view. It comes as short notes in the exam. Okay. Internal jugular veins. We have two internal jugular veins. One on the right side and the other on the left side. So they are the chief veins of the head and neck. They collect blood from the brain and the superficial parts of the face and the neck. Course of the internal jugular vein, it begins as a direct continuation of the sigmoid sinus that is at the base of the skull below the jugular foramen. Okay, so it is a continuation of the sigmoid sinus, which is a dural venous sinus present within the cranial cavity at the jugular foramen. Okay, then it descends vertically downwards to end behind the sternal end of the clavicle by joining the subclavian vein to form the brachiocephalic vein. So this is the course of the internal jugular vein. It is a direct continuation of the sigmoid sinus at the base of the skull below the jugular foramen, and it descends vertically downwards to end behind the sternal end of the clavicle, that is medial 2/3 of the clavicle. By joining with the subclavian vein, it forms the brachiocephalic vein. The right internal jugular vein is usually larger than the left because it drains blood from the larger superior sagittal sinus. Superior sagittal sinus, again, it is a dural venous sinus present in the falx cerebri. Okay, so it is a larger superior sagittal sinus. Right internal jugular vein drains blood from the larger superior sagittal sinus, so it is larger. Left internal jugular vein drains blood from the smaller inferior sagittal sinus. Okay, so this is also present within the falx cerebri. So within the dural fold, large superior sagittal sinus and smaller inferior sagittal sinus. Internal jugular vein is usually largest vein in the neck. The internal jugular vein drains from brain and most of the tissues of the head and neck. What are the special features of the internal jugular vein? It presents two dilatations. First, at its commencement, at its beginning, which lies in the jugular fossa of the temporal bone, that is known as the superior bulb. It is related to the floor of the middle ear. So we say superior bulb of the internal jugular vein. That is one dilatation. The second, close to its termination, at its ending, which lies in the lesser supraclavicular fossa between the sternal and clavicular heads of the sternocleidomastoid. It is known as inferior bulb and it is guarded by a pair of valves. So in this diagram, we can make out the superior bulb of the internal jugular vein. Okay, and this is the inferior bulb of the internal jugular vein. So these are the two dilatations of the internal jugular vein. What are the special features of the internal jugular vein? Internal jugular vein vertically applied to the lateral side of the internal and common carotid arteries. Enclosed within them, vagus nerve in the facial sheath called carotid sheath. So within the carotid sheath, you have all these structures. Okay, vertically to the lateral side of the internal and common carotid arteries. Then enclosed within them, the vagus nerve in the facial sheath is known as the carotid sheath. So it is enclosed in the carotid sheath. Special features: the deep cervical lymph nodes, they lie along its entire course. So along the entire course of the interjugular vein, you have deep cervical increase. So it is remarkably constant in position. The interjugular vein, it can be marked on the surface by a vertical line extending from midpoint between the tip of the mastoid process, this is the tip of the mastoid process, and the angle of the mandible to the sternoclavicular joint. So it is constant in position and it can be marked on the surface by a vertical line extending from the midpoint between the tip of the mastoid process and the angle of the mandible up to the sternoclavicular joint. Deep are the posterior relations of the interjugular vein. Interjugular vein, deeply it is related to rectus capitis lateralis, transverse process of atlas, levator scapulae, the scalenus medius and its cervical plexus, scalenus anterior and phrenic nerve, thyrocervical trunk and first part of the vertebral artery, first part of the subclavian artery, and thoracic duct on the left side, sternocleidomastoid overlaps the upper part and covers the lower part of the vein. So we can see in this diagram the posterior relations of the interjugular vein, the rectus capitis lateralis, transverse process of atlas, levator scapulae, the scalenus medius, the cervical plexus, thyrocervical trunk, vertebral artery, and subclavian arteries. Superficial are the anterolateral relations of the interjugular vein. So interjugular vein, it is crossed by two muscles, posterior belly of the digastric in the upper part and inferior belly of the omohyoid in the lower part. And it is crossed by two arteries, occipital artery and posterior auricular artery, which are the branches from the external carotid. It is crossed by one vein, anterior jugular vein, and crossed by two nerves, the spinal accessory nerve and inferior root of ansa cervicalis. That is descendens cervicalis. At the base of the skull, internal carotid artery lies in front of the interjugular vein and the last four cranial nerves. So what are the last four cranial nerves? We have, how many cranial nerves are there? Total 12 we have, right? 12 pairs of cranial nerves. So 12th is hypoglossal, 11th is accessory nerve, and the 10th is vagus, and 9th is glossopharyngeal nerve. So last four cranial nerves intervene between the vein and the artery. So these are the superior or anterolateral relations. We can make out the posterior auricular artery, posterior belly of the digastric, occipital artery, the descendens cervicalis. Medial relations, internal carotid artery, it is related to the 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th cranial nerves in the upper part. And common carotid artery, vagus nerve in the lower part. This is important. The tributaries of the internal jugular vein, you have to remember all the tributaries. Okay, sometimes it comes as a very short notes. The tributaries of the internal jugular vein. Number one, inferior petrosal sinus. It is usually the first tributary, joins the internal jugular vein immediately below the jugular foramen. Okay, that is first tributary of the internal jugular vein. Then pharyngeal veins from the pharyngeal plexus, common facial vein, lingual vein, superior thyroid vein, middle thyroid vein, occipital vein sometimes. Okay, so these are the 7 tributaries of the internal jugular vein. You must remember these tributaries because they are they're going to ask these things in the exam. So we can make out here the inferior petrosal sinus draining into the internal jugular vein, the pharyngeal veins, the common facial vein, lingual vein, superior thyroid veins. Okay, so these are the occipital veins draining into the internal jugular vein. Clinical correlation of the internal jugular vein, it acts as a guide for surgeons during removal of deep cervical lymph nodes. So why do we remove deep cervical lymph nodes? So let me tell you that whenever there is increased venous pressure, okay, venous pressure can be raised if there is right heart failure. Okay, if right atrium and right ventricle is not working, that means the venous pressure can be raised. So that in turn raises the intrathoracic pressure. okay, from any cause or obstruction to the superior vena cava. So increased venous pressure leads to dilatation of the veins in the neck. Okay, obviously, whenever pressure increases, so you see dilatation of the veins, okay, in the neck. So obviously, the internal jugular vein also dilated, okay, it gets dilated. So this is the reason dilatation of dilatation of the internal jugular vein in this condition, okay. Whenever there is raised venous pressure, that is in the condition of right heart failure, okay, you see the dilatation of the internal jugular vein, okay, that is it is very markedly dilated. Then involvement in malignancy. So lymph nodes from all parts of the head and neck ultimately drain into the deep cervical lymph nodes. So therefore what happens, they are frequently involved in malignancy and infections such as tuberculosis, TB. So in the treatment of malignancies, the surgeon often has to remove these nodes, these lymph nodes. So enlarged lymph nodes, they become adherent to the internal jugular vein, and it is sometimes necessary for surgeon to remove a segment of vein along with the lymph nodes. So that's why the internal jugular vein acts as a guide for the surgeons during removal of deep cervical lymph nodes. Okay, and internal jugular vein is used for IV access, in which cases the vein is accessed through lesser supraclavicular triangle, okay, that is between the sternal and clavicular heads of the sternocleidomastoid muscle. So this is about the applied anatomy related to the internal jugular vein. So it is very small topic, the internal jugular vein. You have to remember the commencement of the internal jugular vein, relations of the internal jugular vein, and very, very important are the tributaries of the internal jugular vein and the clinical correlation. Okay, thank you very much.